What if I told you the money in your wallet wasn't created to make your life easier, but to make you easier to control? What if the invention of paper money wasn't an innovation at all, but a trap? A quiet psychological tool designed to separate you from your wealth, your power, and even your freedom? Because here is the mystery: every single time in history that societies have switched from real money to paper money, the exact same pattern repeats. People lose control, governments gain control. And eventually, the entire system breaks. Why? That's the secret almost nobody talks about. Today, we're going to uncover how paper money was truly invented and why its purpose has always been the same: to control the population without them ever realizing it. Before paper, money was difficult to control. Gold and silver had real weight. They couldn't just be printed out of thin air. They held real, intrinsic value because they were scarce. Now, this created a huge problem for ancient rulers, for emperors, and for governments. They couldn't spend more money than they actually had. They couldn't create fake wealth on a whim, and they certainly couldn't secretly transfer power from the people to themselves. Gold was honest, but power hates honesty. And so, the search began for a way to create something that looked like money, that felt like money, but wasn't. Truly money, something easy to produce, something people would trust without questioning it, and most importantly, something that rulers could manipulate behind the scenes. This is where the story of paper money truly begins. Not with innovation, not with convenience, but with the oldest motivation in politics: control. Paper money didn't start in Europe. It didn't start with banks. It didn't even start as currency. It started with receipts around the 7th century in China during the Tang dynasty. Merchants were trading huge amounts of iron coins. These coins were incredibly heavy, they were inconvenient, and they were almost impossible to carry over long distances. So merchants created written notes, essentially IOUs, that were backed by the metal they held in their vaults. But then the Chinese government saw an opportunity. They thought, why let merchants control money? Why not take over this system and print the receipts themselves? So they did. And at first, every single paper note was fully backed by precious metals. You could, in theory, exchange your paper for real value. Then slowly, quietly, the backing was reduced. Then it was removed altogether. And suddenly, paper money was no longer a receipt for real wealth. It became the wealth itself. But here's the twist: people had no idea their money was losing its real value. The government had discovered an incredibly powerful tool. If people believe paper has value, it does. And if they trust it blindly, the printer controls everything. This was the first time in history that rulers learned they could create wealth out of nothing. And once that door was opened, it never closed again. Centuries later, Europe copied the exact same trick. Goldsmiths started holding people's gold for safekeeping. In return, they issued paper receipts. Soon, those receipts became easier to trade than the actual gold. People started trusting the paper more than the gold itself. But the goldsmiths noticed something dangerous: people rarely came back to claim their gold. So they did the same thing China had done centuries before. They started issuing more receipts than the gold they actually had in their vaults. This is how fractional reserve banking was born. Money had officially become a promise, not a reality. Governments saw this and realized, why should we let private banks have all this power? Why not take it for ourselves? And so central banks began to form institutions built on the same ancient idea: control the paper and you control the people, because whoever controls the supply of money controls everything else. They control prices, loans, wages, debt, savings, and ultimately they control the future. With paper money came a temptation that was just too powerful to resist: printing. Every single time a king needed money for a war, he printed. Every time a government needed to repay its debts, it printed. Every time the economy slowed down, it printed. And what was the result? Inflation, market crashes, economic bubbles, and in the worst cases, total currency collapses. This pattern happened again and again throughout history. The Song dynasty in China collapsed. France collapsed with its assignat currency. Colonial America collapsed with the continental dollar. And most famously, the Weimar Republic in Germany collapsed after printing trillions of marks. Every single time paper replaced real money, society paid the price, but the rulers didn't, because here's the secret no one likes to admit: inflation is a hidden tax. It is a silent way to take wealth from the public without ever having to ask for their permission, and paper money made that possible. By the 1900s, governments around the world faced a new problem. People were losing trust in paper. Inflation was becoming obvious. Crashes were frequent and devastating. So nations made a promise. They created the gold standard, promising the public that their paper money was still backed by gold. But it wasn't the full truth. Behind the scenes, governments were quietly printing more money than they could ever back. They were slowly increasing the money supply, slowly weakening the standard, and hoping no one would notice until 1971. That was the year the United States did what China had done 900 years earlier. They cut the link completely. Paper money had officially become pure belief, backed by nothing but faith in the government that printed it. Since that day, the system has changed forever. Governments tried to impose rules, limits, regulations, and targets. But every single fix has failed for the same reason. Paper money gives unlimited power, and unlimited power always gets abused. You cannot control human nature with paperwork. You cannot control the printing press with promises, and you cannot expect a system that was built for control to ever create freedom. Let's connect the dots to today. Since 1971, the year the gold standard was abandoned, the US dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. Global debt has exploded to over $300 trillion. Housing prices have risen faster than incomes in 95% of countries around the world. Savings accounts earn less than the rate of inflation, meaning your money is losing value every day. And today, more than 60% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. This isn't an accident. This is the design. The more paper money that circulates, the more debt grows. The more debt grows, the more people depend on banks and the financial system. And the more people depend on the system, the more control governments have. The system rewards spending, it punishes saving, and it forces dependence. It's the same pattern as ancient China, the same pattern as revolutionary France, the same pattern as every civilization that believed paper could replace reality. The patterns are the same because the design is the same. So what's the takeaway here? First, paper money was never neutral. It was always a tool of control. Second, every paper money system in history has eventually collapsed under its own weight. And third, the modern financial system is repeating the exact same cycle, but this time on a global scale. We are living through the most important financial transition in human history, and most people don't even see it coming. If you don't understand how money was designed, you will never understand how you're being controlled. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, protect your savings, and see the truth behind the system, make sure you subscribe for more videos just like this. Share this with someone who still thinks money is just paper, and let's keep exposing the system, one story at a time. Thanks for watching.